Hello, everyone. I'm Stephen, and I'm going to present like a little bit of some work that I've been doing for the last couple of years, actually. And this is sort of an add-on to prior work where we explore some visualization of channel activity levels, EQ. EQ is maybe a big word, but some frequency content, especially for user interfaces that implement what we call the stage metaphor that probably some of you have heard about. I'll just be outlining what the stage metaphor is for those of you who don't know that, and then talk a little bit about the need for visualization, what strategies we came up with, and a very informal evaluation that we made sort of as a pilot study to get started on this. So basically, the stage metaphor for mixing takes this, well, here we have the traditional metaphor where when you want to set levels and pan, you have sliders and knobs like on a traditional mixer. The stage metaphor sort of has each channel as a widget that has a position in a virtual space, in a virtual 2D space. And the position relative to a virtual listening point determines how it's panned either to the right or to the left, or the distance from the listening point determines the volume. So the further away, the lower the volume. The idea is that this space kind of maps to how many would think about a multi-track mix. Yeah, and you can even like add extra stuff to distance. For instance, reverb the further away channels get to simulate what would happen in the real world as well. Yeah, so this is this is not a new concept at all. A few related works there. I wasn't able to get online this morning, so I couldn't. But there are beginning to get more and more. What we're saying, non-academia versions of this, which is interesting. So Clang is one thing there. This is the basic setup that we have been using. So a virtual listening position down here, and then you move around channels here. And as you can see, it works pretty well when you don't have too many channels. But there are some issues when you begin to rise in channels. So. Just a couple of quick benefits of this metaphor. It's potentially closer to the mental model of the user. Now, the question is it the user from the 70s that Paolo was talking about, or is it the guitarist? So probably closer to the guitarist, right? There's some evidence that this metaphor can improve some visual search while also improving critical listening, which means that it doesn't overburden the user in terms of taking away some visual information, so you forget to listen. Right? There's something about yeah, so it might be preferred in different contexts. There's also some interesting research that points towards integral controls in general being faster and more accurate. Especially once you get used to practicing with them, which means that, so this is an integral controller because you're essentially, when you move something, you're moving two things at the same time. You're controlling two parameters at the same time. While with a slider and a knob, you have separate controls. So essentially it takes longer time. And there are certain challenges and more challenges than these, but there's the problem with clutter, and then there's no established methods for monitoring, so something like VU monitoring. And essentially, some of our prior studies show that it's difficult to just know what's playing at any given moment in time, and that is sort of the starting point. So that was a long introduction to what we're doing here. Okay, so I just whiz through this. Many different goals when visualizing audio or music in general. There could be the goal of getting some detailed information for diagnostic reasons. You might want to have an overview of some kind of structure of a musical piece, what patterns might be repeating, things like that. You might want to have something that helps you discover some, not some flaws, but maybe places where you can improve as a musician, for instance. That can be difficult to listen carefully to while practicing, for instance. There are maybe the goal of improving the overall aesthetics of the experience. Overview of tonal progression. Maybe you want some kind of summary of a piece or a production of some sort. You might even want to visualize genre. Now the goals for our visualization here were that they should definitely not be used in detail, so not for diagnostics, but be used at a glance. We wanted to conform to this circular style that most of these widgets have when we see them being implemented in this stage metaphor. As little distraction as possible, because you might be working on one track when mixing, and then you don't want all of a sudden to be distracted by something visualized on a different track at the same time. Simplicity, intuitiveness, whatever that is, but yeah. And then some kind of perceptual correlation with the audio. And we went for visualizing 3 features. So one feature is just what is more or less loudness, but we wanted to more explicitly tell the user whether the track or the channel is active or not. So something that you would normally see on a VU meter when the VU meter just is not showing you anything. Or if you go to a waveform view of your many channels, then you would see, there's no waveform here. So we don't have that in this setup. Then overall loudness, kind of like a VU meter, and then some kind of frequency content. And we went for spectral centroid for this pilot here. So in terms of activity, a little difficult to see, but maybe you can see that there are some that are a little more highlighted than the others. So the idea is that when channels are not playing, they kind of dim down. When they are playing, they dim up. So if you were to see the curve, just when they start playing, they would dim up immediately. But when they stop playing, then there would be sort of a fall off of 3-4 seconds, something like that, to not have too much going on at the same time. Then we tried different visualizations of levels. So over here, you might be able to see size as the first one. So more loud, larger size. Then we had this partial ring that sort of travels all the way around the widget. If it goes all the way around, it sort of hits peak level, and then the length of this ring would be somewhere in between. And then we tried with the brightness of the channel here. Yeah. Then we have the frequency content. Also, we experimented with brightness. So the higher the spectral centroid, the higher the brightness. And then we have these, which maybe you can see them. There's an outline here that we induce with noise, and the higher the spectral frequency, the more noisy this outline is. If it's a really low spectral centroid, it's just a flat line all around. And kind of the same induced line, but we fill out everything. So it's more sort of the edge of the widget that gets distorted, the higher the spectral centroid. And actually, these two also have mappings to levels. So the radius of the outline and the size of the widget also changes here. And the reason that we made these variation was that we wanted to just throw them at some participants and get a feel for what works in different. So which variations work and why not? So a couple of demos here. And this is this is the one without any visualization, and this was kind of what started us out. That participants that would try this, they would say that I have no idea what is playing at what time. So this is just to give you a feel for. I just chose some of them. This is size or loudness mapped to size. By the way, sorry for the really bad mix. I put no effort at all into doing anything here, other than just visualizing stuff. Okay, this is this partial ring. And I'll just wish through. So here is a spectral centroid mapped to brightness. And you can see maybe there's something with the update rate here. So things that change quite rapidly maybe are not too good here. The outline, I'm not sure whether you can see this. So you can really see the it's much higher centroid here than on the bass, or and the drums change kind of, and actually if you would be paying attention, you would see sort of the S's when the vocalist would hit the S. Yeah. And then let's see, so a similar one where we just fill out the whole space, so it's more or less it's both size and this the shape. Okay, so we handed this to 6 experienced audio engineers, and the goal was to try to understand the potentials, drawbacks of each variation. Each session took approximately 45 minutes. They were asked to explore and to try to achieve a good mix. And we would randomize when or what variation was tried when. What we would actually also do was have them use longer time on the first couple of sessions to get a feel for the interface in general. And then when we began to change variations, the only difference there was in the visualization, so it would be pretty fast to sort of get an understanding of what worked and what didn't work. We asked them to think aloud, and then finally we had a discussion where they could sort of talk about the similarities or the differences between them. Everything was noted, sorted. These notes were sorted and coded to show any patterns. So I'll just summarize the results here. So in general, these visualizations were not used directly, which means that I mean, this was not the goal that they were going to be used for these as a diagnostic tool, but more as sort of something that would accompany the sound. Generally, the visualizations provided a good sense of dynamics. So of course, these don't show the dynamics, but once you actually see them and work with them, you can see the dynamics of things. Somehow there was a different vibe than some of the other tests that we've made with this interface, where suddenly people began to say, or these participants began to say that this would be a really good tool for live mixing, which we haven't heard before, probably because we've been missing this visualization, because it's pretty fast to see if something is up, and also the interface itself. Everyone would say, well, it's really good for like a quick mix. Then when I have to go sort of into details with stuff, then I get into problems. But for live mixing, you'd pretty fast be able to get somewhere. Visuals generally supported the audio. Brightness was not liked. It drew too much attention. It was unintuitive for the spectral centroid. For loudness, it was intuitive enough, but again, took too much attention away from what the participants were doing at any given time. Size also drew maybe too much attention. There were comments that it might work if it was less dynamic. So if we would sort of average loudness over time, so it would be more sort of static widgets that had a size that wouldn't change as rapidly, because it's this change in the visuals that take away the attention. Size may also lead to clutter, which we don't want. The partial ring was rated intuitive, and of course it gave a sense of how loud it was, how loud the channel was compared to max loudness, right? So somehow there's a scale in the partial ring you see at the top that you don't have in the other. However, most of the participants, 5 out of 6 participants, said that this was not information that they used. So they would rely on their ears instead. And the last one here, outline with noise, was the most favored. It was subtle enough to not draw away attention, and intuitive. Maybe it was even too subtle. And there was discussions about, is it even necessary to have this visualization of spectral centroid frequency? Which is a good question. I think we've got to be careful with these visualizations and too much visual clutter, right? Because we want to essentially be able to listen to what we're doing, not see what we're doing. A little bit about the future. So again, is frequency visualization at a glance even useful? We'd like to maybe explore frequency visualization more as a diagnostic tool as well. So for instance, it could identify whether there's some masking between channels and alert you if there's something that might be up there. We're exploring dynamic query filters, which was suggested by Mycroft and colleagues. And we've actually done a little bit of this already, where we have some sliders where you could actually set, just show me those channels that have a spectral centroid that's above or below something. But just to test out whether they actually are useful in a context. We think it's an interesting area. And in terms of intelligent interfaces, probably what we would be looking at was not only interfaces that would do the mix for you, or parts of the mix, or the tedious bits of the mix, but interfaces kind of more like Google that learns your every move and your every desire. So I think gathering as much information and trying to sort of find some patterns in that can help me next time I start a mix. I'll probably do something that's similar to what I did last time. So why not have the computer sort of just say, is this what you want? And then you go, yes, I just got rid of half an hour's work there setting everything up. Okay, that's That's it. Come by for a demo later. Thank you.